We created free because someone had to stand for the addicts and loved ones of addicts who were suffering in silence, for the spiritual refugees who didn't have a place of belonging. A traditional church model doesn't create space for the conversations we know have to be had. Free is standing with those who are barely hanging on, who are longing for something new. Free is bridging the gap between spirituality and recovery. In this place, God meets us exactly where we are. This is what we stand for.
Intimate crowd tonight, right? So welcome everyone who came in person and anyone joining us online from a treatment center, or maybe you're Martha and you're in your car because you couldn't get back into the city in time. We're glad, really grateful for Ryan and our AV team who helps us all get together, even if you can't be here in person. So tonight we are continuing on. It's our last night of our spiritual practices series called Grounded. Those things that we can do that help us stay connected to ourselves, help us connected to God, so we're not seeking connection in things like, a meth pipe. So we're all here tonight, so I'm hoping we're all good there. So every Saturday night at Free, we start off with one phrase. We all join together and say it. So if you will join me, and we don't do shame. Ready? 1, 2, 3. We don't do shame. So a couple things going on in the community. First of all, as always, I think we're all family here tonight, but if you haven't had a chance to fill out the Connect card, there are Connect cards on the table right over there. We'd love a chance to get to know you a little bit better. Chilpa's laughing about something. What's funny? You two. They're not even sitting together and they're still causing problems. So yeah, just fill out a Connect card if you haven't had a chance to do so yet. A couple of things that are coming up. Let's see what's first. Next, in 2 weeks, so we're having a little barbecue. So our friends from LSSI will be joining us in person. We'll be firing up the grill. Ryan Canaday from Free in Denver will be here as our guest storyteller. So if you have any friends that maybe you've told about Free or you think might want to check it out, it'll be a really good week. For those of you who don't know, Ryan Canaday is the guy who started the Denver location, and so they have a building that hosts meetings and events and all these stuff, but it started off actually smaller than us. So it started off in his backyard for the first year. So he'll come and share his experience, strength, and hope. Also a really, really nice guy. So a good person to get to know. But before that, next week we actually have a rest week. So next week there will be no Free. It is the 4th of July. So, go out, hang out in your Speedo on the beach, do whatever you want, enjoy some time off. We do 2 rest weeks a year, one between Christmas and New Year's, and then the other one before the 4th of July. So next week, no Free. I'm sure someone will still show up. And I apologize, but I've done everything I can. So, okay, and then, it looks like Ash is here. Hi, Ash. And so we'll start off with celebrations, go into a recovery message. We'll take some time to pause and just breathe and meditate and be, followed by a guest storyteller. It is Blair this week. Close out with some heartbreaks, and then pray and head out. So does that sound good, everybody? Yes. I was reading Joe's shirt. It's stretched across some pectoral muscles. So let's get started. Share what's going on that's what's uplifting, and share those good things in life, because someone in the room might need to hear it. So we'll start with celebrations.
Hi, my name is Matt. I haven't been here in a few weeks, but I started seeing somebody. So it's not like official yet. Like there's a lot of conversations to be had and stuff, but everything is indicating and everything's leading there. So everything is really good right now.
Yay, love.
Yeah. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride. You read that love is love sign outside of the Walgreens?
My name is Justin, and I'm celebrating 5 months of sobriety.
Woo! Congrats on 5 months, Justin.
My name is Chopa, and my brother just had a baby. So we have I'm an aunt twice.
Oh, I have a celebration. The Bonaventure girlies are here. Woo!
Hi, I'm Shelly, alcoholic addict.
Hey, Shelly.
So I've been going through a really rough week and a half, and I'm celebrating that I chose recovery and that I did not relapse this week, even though I thought about it.
There are times where the veil between sobriety and using is very thin. I'm celebrating that we can see Aaliyah here today. Don't feel attacked if I speak directly to you. You're in front center. Yeah.
I'm Max. I'm celebrating I got into federal reentry court.
Woo! Does that take away any charges? Oh, okay. Okay. Awesome.
Hi, I'm Blair, and I just found out I got accepted into the master's program at my alma mater, University of Texas, San Antonio. So right now I'm debating whether to move back to Texas or do most of it online for the meantime. But it's going to be next spring I start.
Woo! I went to grad school in Texas, and I think many people in this room might be a little too fabulous for Texas, right? Or maybe I'm just being selfish because I don't want you to move to San Antonio. We've got 23 seconds left. It doesn't look like we got any messages this week from LSSI. Oh, perfect. We have time for you too, Victor.
My name's Don, and I'm celebrating that I got my first sponsee the other day.
Ooh. Buckle up, buddy. Buckle up, buddy.
Hello, I'm Victor. I have two celebrations. I made it to the lake finally. That was part of my goals. And I am officially on step 3.
Woo! The next time you go to the lake, you might be a little more discerning on who you go with, though. People are going to judge who you're hanging out with. He went to the lake with me. And others who shall remain anonymous. So, as I mentioned when we first got started, this is the last week of our series on spiritual practices. So, we'll be talking, in this series, we've talked about prayer and sacred texts and sharing our deepest, darkest secrets, right? Last week, we talked about the private spiritual practice of sharing things about our lives. Some people call it fifth step, some people call it confession. We talked about how the deepest, darkest places of us can still be loved. But what if what we're hiding isn't just the nitty-gritty details about things that we've done? Some of us have been trained to hide our very identities. Addicts are told to be ashamed and hide of their addiction. Queer people are often told to hide their very identity, that it is something to be hid and not celebrated. Honestly, until I was about 20 years old, as many people in this room might understand, I thought I'd rather just off myself than come out, right? Because we're taught to hide these things. Society teaches us sometimes that we need to fall into these like neat, perfect little molds. The nuclear family, the people who are happy with a wife and 2 kids, that we need to have it all together, that we can't make mistakes, that we can't be different in any way. So what do we do when society demands us to present something that's perfect when no human is really perfect? We learn to survive. That's what we do. We learn to survive by staying silent about these pieces of us, our story, or what got us to where we are today. Not because we're weak or not because we're fundamentally dishonest, but because sometimes staying quiet and hiding and protecting ourselves, it can actually protect us and in many cases keep us safe or even help us survive. I hid for so many years. The only people I knew in my hometown that were gay, that lived lives that looked like nothing I was after. There was one guy in my hometown that was open, 2. The guy that worked at the at the Sonic, and he delivered shakes, and he lived a rough life, if you know what I mean. And then the really annoying gay guy that was the clerk at the city hall. The only examples I had. I thought that if I ever came out, I'd be excluded from my family and that there was no way that they could accept me. So for 20 years, I had to hide the very way, after 20 years of hiding, because I heard the way that they talked about gay people, I had to defend myself against accusations. I waited to come out until I had my own apartment because the frat house was closed on holidays and I thought I wouldn't have a place to go during that time. Once I came out, my life got harder for a while. I got kicked out of the fraternity and I turned to a community that was centered around alcohol. And sure, things might have been awkward for a while, and it wasn't until a bigger issue, addiction, took center stage that they became okay with me being gay. When you're a junkie, right? They kind of let the secondary things be secondary. But coming out isn't something that's exclusively for queer people. That might have been the hardest coming out that I had to do, but it certainly wasn't the last. After prison, every job interview required me to come out with my criminal record. Dating, imagine dating. Dating isn't easy either when you're an addict or you have criminal records or you have these pieces of yourself that you're hiding away. I never knew the appropriate time to tell someone I'm an ex-con, right? Like, do you wait till the 5th date? Is it the 3rd date? Do you do it right away? Like, maybe that's trauma dumping. Like, how do you tell someone that you've been to prison? It got even harder whenever I became a pastor. More guys cared about the criminal record, or more guys cared about me being a pastor than the criminal record, right? Once they found out I was a pastor, I got ghosted like 9 times out of 10. No one wanted to date a pastor. Until I met Justin, actually. This is kind of a funny story. We met, and I trauma dumped it all on him at once. I think within 30 minutes, he knew I was an addict pastor who'd been to prison. Would you say it was about 30 minutes? Yeah. Of talking. But maybe there was something to that, right? Like maybe the fact that I just like got it all out of the way meant that I wasn't operating through the world holding on to something, right? I wasn't holding a piece of myself back so that it actually liberated me to just be myself and not have this like, oh, well, once he finds out all these things about me, he's not going to want me around anymore. That's why at Free, if you look at this sign over here, it actually says breaking the silence of addiction. So in Denver, they learned something when they started Free, and it's that people were walking around with this deep shame of their addiction and that no one that they felt like they could talk to it about. And it's not because silence is morally wrong. Let's face it, there's some things that are probably better left silent, right? We all know an oversharer. No one needs to know about Victor's last bowel movement, for instance, right? A stranger on the CTA doesn't need to know what I'm having for lunch, right? Every job interview doesn't need to know you're an addict in recovery. And I think I need to say that louder for some people in the back, not individuals. I've had so many sponsees that just felt like they had to tell their employer, unless you're walking around a criminal record, that bitch don't need to know. But sometimes silence can actually turn deadly, because silence is actually where shame grows. Sacred texts know this. It's why in the Psalms, David says, when I kept silence, my bone wasted away, my groaning all day long. He could feel it in his body, the hiding things away. He could feel it in his very bones. Because those pieces that we are not okay with or not comfortable with sharing can prevent us from showing up in spaces authentically. And also when we're silent, our story often has no purpose. Every one of us has a story. Every one of us has challenges we've overcome. We've had things that have gone well. We have things that have not gone so well. Victor, you're still laughing about the bowel movement joke? She's never coming back. But every one of us does have a story. Some chapters we're proud of, some things we'd rather forget. We spend so much energy trying to escape the difficult past chapters of our lives by erasing them or pretending that they never happened. But what if those chapters weren't just something that happened so that we could survive and pretend like they never did? What if they become something that fundamentally forms us, something that gives us much more to offer the world than we ever had before we did. A few years ago, I was working with what many people would call a dream job. I've talked about it a lot. It paid well, it had security, it was respected, but something that never set right with me was the piece of me, the prison, the addiction, the things that transformed me, the things that showed strength and resilience were often things that had to be hid away. I thought there's no way I survived all of this just to pretend like it never happened. Because we've all survived a lot, right? We've all been through some shit. You hear the guest storytellers every week. This room is full of people who've been through some shit. And so why should we have to hide all that away? That's part of the very reason that Free exists, because we wanted to create a place where the very things that the world tells us to hide becomes the things that help heal other people. So we can show the still suffering addicts or alcoholics or loved ones of addicts that there's a path forward with hope and joy. That those pieces that shaped us, make us resilient, are actually not liabilities. What we thought were our greatest liabilities can actually be our greatest assets in helping others. If you've ever read Working with Others in the AA Big Book, that shit's all over it. It actually says it's the key to life and happiness for others when we share our stories. The Apostle Paul says something similar in his second letter to the Corinthians. He says, "Praise be to the God of all our comfort, who comforts us in all of our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves have received." Sounds a lot like you can only keep what you have by giving it away, right? Thank God that God comforts us so that when other people need comfort, we can be the face of God. Recovery, which is almost always dependent on some form of spirituality, whether you call it or not. The act of actually choosing to get sober is saying, I have hope that there's something greater for me waiting on the other side. So whether you want to admit that your recovery is spiritually infused or not, your recovery is spiritually infused. Because recovery is ultimately about more than what we stop. And sure, early recovery does focus a lot on the things we stop, right? It's a lot of don't drink, don't use, don't date for a year, because I know we all abided by that one, right? Don't get resentful, don't call your ex. Anyone in here been doing that? Don't isolate, don't lie, right? There's a lot of don'ts in early sobriety, and they exist for a reason, because those don'ts probably end up saving our lives. They do matter, but eventually recovery grows into a place where it starts to challenge us in a different way. Recovery begins challenging us to build a different life, become who we were always meant to be. It teaches us how to find joy and bring hope. It shows us how we can help others. And one of the ways we know the most about is actually how to survive the challenges that those people that are still surviving the don'ts just wish they knew how. Or maybe those people who don't even know what the don'ts are yet. After all, Jesus himself said, I came that we may have life and life abundantly, right? So maybe that life that we're living, maybe that abundant life, that's why we share celebrations at the beginning of every gathering. It's because it's important for other people to know. Like I said earlier, the Big Book says we can only keep what we have by giving it away. And that's true of our sobriety, but that's also true of our spiritual experience. So why does telling our stories matter? Why do stories even matter? Because telling stories can actually change people. There's something about facts, they can inform us, right? Anyone that's been to treatment probably knows all the facts about their recovery, right? Rules can easily tell us what to do, but stories, our own stories, actually help us show other people what's possible. People rarely change because someone lectures them. People often change because someone says, I've been where you are and I've gotten through it. Stories also create possibility. Before I met people in recovery, I never really saw that recovery was possible. Before many queer people in the room met openly queer adults, we didn't know that happiness was possible, especially if you grew up in the 90s. But the room is probably not that many people grew up in the 90s anymore, is it, Lennox? I forget you look like 15 years younger than you really are. Before someone meets their sponsor, they often don't know that they could have a path to sobriety for themselves. We borrow hope from other people's stories until we have our own. This Pride, I'm reflecting on what Pride meant before it was just a party with some live music, a parade, and a brunch of straight people, and a bunch of straight people, maybe a brunch of straight people too, a bunch of straight people in rainbows, right? And I think of the story of Harvey Milk. Has anyone seen the movie, Sean Penn? Harvey realized that the fear and prejudice are sustained when people remain invisible. He believed that when ordinary people had the courage to tell the truth about who they were, it didn't just change their own lives, it changed the people's lives around them. It changed the perspectives that people had about other people when they knew that someone they loved was that person. So, in a second, we're going to play a clip. Listen for what he's really saying about the power of being known. Let's see if it plays.
We're going to convince 90%. They give a shit about us 10%. We have to let them know who we are. Everybody has to come out. Across the entire state, no matter where they live. Come out wherever you are. If we're going to beat Prop 6, we tell all of them to come out. Every gay lawyer, teacher, doctor, dog catcher. We have to leave the ghetto. We have to let all those people out there know that they know one of us. And if somebody doesn't want to step out of the closet, we open the door for them.
The whole state is in San Francisco, Harvey.
Clearly, Scott.
Yeah, well, Harvey, that could be really, really dangerous. I mean, there's such a thing as a right to privacy.
Privacy. In this movement, at this time, I'm not saying this as a supervisor. Privacy is the enemy. And if you want real political power, if that's what you want, try telling the truth for a change. Right? Starting here. If there's anyone in this room right now who hasn't told their family, their friends, their employers, do it now.
My folks know already.
My dad doesn't know yet.
They vote for us 2-1. If they know one of us.
As much as I'm sure you'd all like to watch, I don't think that's such a good idea.
Cleve, could you show Dick where there's a phone he can speak in private?
There's one in the bedroom.
Not have been the best thing to do, but there's something very valuable there, right? When we don't know people that struggle with things, it's very easy to other them. We actually, when we know people and we see them, we actually have the ability to humanize it. By letting people know that queer people were those they loved, public opinion changed. By telling their stories, those things that grow to be negative in the dark actually tend to grow to be beautiful things in the light. And we can do the same things with our biggest challenges too, our recovery stories. By sharing these stories, we put a human face to our struggles and create space for those who are currently going through it to see us as human beings. Stories do more than just give us a face to our struggles, though. Stories give purpose to our pain. There are many things that I wouldn't choose if I had to do life all over again, but those stories can help someone else who are going through them right now. This week I spoke at a meeting at LPAC, and after the meeting, a girl came up to me and told me that she had a friend who was in and out of prison. They had met in treatment years before. I think he was on his 4th DUI, and he was serving some time, and he didn't even see that there was another way to live. He was too far gone, and I remember that feeling. I remember whenever I first got into prison, and I just thought, the rest of my life is over, right? Everything I'd worked for, I couldn't do anymore. I thought nothing would exist afterwards. She gave him my number, and obviously he hasn't called, and I'm not sure if he ever will, but maybe he's not the one that needed hope there. Maybe it was his friend who was worried about him, right? Sometimes by telling our stories, we don't even know the person we impacted. I remember one time, Alea, you were telling your story, and you said something kind of off, just like kind of a side note. And someone else came up afterwards and was like, Alea's story really mattered. It taught me that I can't keep trying to save someone if I don't try to save myself. And I don't even know if you meant to say that, right? I think you probably did. But there's pieces of our stories that invite other people in that they can connect with what they're going through. And there's many ways other than just sharing at a meeting to invite other people into the story of our lives. If anyone's had a sponsor or a mentor, that's a way that we can guide people that are coming up the path behind us. Volunteering helps share who we are, creating spaces for other people to do it, and obviously sharing our experience, strength, and hope. And some might say that, all the A programs say anonymous, right? So maybe we need to keep all this stuff a secret. But if you read the preface to the very first copy of the Big Book, anyone read it? Am I the only one? Okay. It says the reason that they attached anonymity to it wasn't because they wanted people to be ashamed of who they were and what they've been through. The reason they put anonymity to it because there was 100 of them, and they knew when this book got out, they wouldn't be able to walk down the street without people begging them for help. Today, there's a whole lot more of us that have gotten sober. And so when we invite other people in, I don't think the people in the room are going to get overwhelmed with people begging them to help get sober. The history of the A program, CMA, AA, NA, OA, whatever anonymous program, actually is because they knew their stories were so powerful that they still needed to work at the bank, right? They knew they still needed to do their jobs. And the art of sharing our stories isn't something that's new to people in recovery. It's been one of the most ancient spiritual practices that there is. It's a spiritual practice that's sometimes known as testimony. And anyone been to youth camp in here? Where they're like, 14-year-olds share your testimony. Have you ever heard that? And you're like, whenever I was 6, I gave my life to Jesus. That's not what we're talking about. Given there was this one year at church camp where I really wanted attention. Go figure. And so they said, has anyone experienced a call to ministry at church camp? And I raised my hand and Jesus cashed that check. But we can talk about that later. But there is something that's like a deeply spiritual practice about sharing our stories. Before we even begin to share our stories, we go through many spiritual practices in the process. Sharing our stories, or what the ancient Christians would have called testimony, we're actually forced to reflect our journey and how it's brought us to where we are today. So the art of storytelling actually gives us perspective on some of those things that might cause us pain. We put words to feelings and emotions that we haven't thought of in a while, and we eventually build up courage to share pieces of ourselves with others. And this is honestly how people have done it for centuries. Testimony is not a modern invention of the evangelical church camp. In the Hebrew Bible, the Israelites are told to tell your children over and over again. They're told to pass down who they were and what they've been through generations. Medieval pilgrims would go on journeys and come back and tell stories about things they'd seen and what they'd done. The Buddha taught in story and conversation. If you've ever read Siddhartha, it's the story of Buddha and the journeys he's been through. Anyone in recovery relate to Siddhartha? If you've read it, I see 2 nods over here, right? He tries this, it doesn't work. He tries this, it doesn't work. And he keeps searching for a spiritual experience till he finds one. And in that story, we learn that you don't have to get it right the first time. Indigenous traditions shared not only their culture, but who they were in relation to the natural world through stories. And the stories of LGBTQ liberation, where queer activists would stand boldly and proclaimed who they were and what they had experienced. They shared the very beings of who they were so people like us could sit in rooms and be okay with it. There are people like Harvey Milk and Sylvia Rivera and Crystal LaBeija weren't willing to accept the status quo, so they stood up and sometimes got pretty mad about it. Because sharing our story gives purpose to our pain. It helps us to connect with others, and it shows other people that there is a way out of our struggles because we have found ourselves. Are you laughing that I used Crystal LaBeija? Yeah, I really wanted to use a quote. She was pissed. I loved her. Because the value of one addict helping another is truly unmatched. Alcoholics Anonymous, page 97, says helping others is the foundation stone of our recovery. And everyone sitting here in this room probably hopes we stay sober for a while, right? Yeah. So wouldn't a foundation stone probably be pretty good if that's what we were trying to do? When we tell the truth about our lives, we give other people permission to do the same as well. Every week at Free, we work to break the silence of addiction, and that's why we have people tell their stories. That's why it's such an important piece of how we gather. But maybe we're breaking more than that. Maybe we're breaking the silence around shame. Maybe we're opening the door to a new life, or maybe we're inviting others into a life that we are so blessed to have. When we tell our stories, we value authenticity over performance. And we are sharing that recovery is possible for those who may not see it or feel it yet. Every time someone tells their story, either as a guest storyteller or in a celebration or in a heartache, we're letting someone else know that they too can share the freedom that we feel. And I don't know how many of y'all have shared a heartbreak or heartbreak specifically, and someone came up to you right after and said, I've been through that too. Really, by sharing the pieces of our stories, and I know I've said stories, if this was a drinking game, Don would be winning, right? Because I've said stories like 50 times. But when we share our stories, we invite other people into our lives. And if addiction thrives in isolation and recovery happens in connection, isn't that part of what we want to do? So now let's just take a moment to slow down. Let's reflect on our own stories and how they can benefit others who don't see a purpose to their pain yet. We spent the night talking about stories. Let's hear one for ourselves. So I would like to invite Blair up as our guest storyteller. Hey Blair, how you doing?
I'm doing awesome.
Awesome.
Yes, yes.
So Blair, for those of you that those people in the room that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I'm Blair Ledesma. I'm from Texas, originally from Texas, alcoholic. Been sober for since April 11th.
Okay,
It
nice.
was like it was one of those things where it's like I went through one of those traumatic, personal things where it's like a breakup and everything, and then part of it, the main reason was because I did drink, and it's like one of the main things too is I was talking to my little sister, and she was going through the same shit too, and she told me, and I was telling her about it, and she's like, you know what, just stop drinking. And she did. And the thing is, so
it's funny how other people can see
but
that
she
drinking's the
did.
root of our problems
She
a lot
did.
more than we can.
But she did. And that day I said, I'm going to fucking stop drinking.
And you did?
And I did.
Oh, nice.
I tried to do the 12-step. I couldn't do the fucking 12-step. I'm not structured that way. But you had a speaker, Craig.
Yeah, Craig.
Oh my
yeah.
God.
Craig's pretty. Yeah.
He was amazing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and hot. But
Yeah.
anyways, yeah. But I had a talk with him afterwards, and what he had said really stuck, hit close to my heart and soul. Was it was more spiritual. It was more of a spiritual, what do you call it?
Program. Yeah.
Program. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now that's how I'm staying sober. I attend your services, either online or in person. I go to other church services. Next Sunday, I'm going to be going to
Mormons.
Mormon church. Elder Olson wants me to go. He's cute as fuck too. So we'll see.
So we knew the way to invite Blair into a spiritual experience,
yes,
right?
Yes. And I remember one thing that you said too. Sobriety looks good on you. I was like, fuck yeah, it looks good on me. Yeah.
Shelly showed up looking like a news anchor one day. She had her blowout. Yeah. She had her fancy clothes on. I'm like, I met you in a hoodie and a side pony. Yeah, I mean, I think that's an important thing, and here at Free we do celebrate like different paths that get us sober, right? Like if someone's finding it, and I think most paths I know people do SMART, and we're going to have one of the co-founders of SMART in July as one of our guest storytellers, and people do all kinds of paths, and I think finding the lane or the vibe or the rhythm that works for you is important. But you're someone who's lived many lives, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like there's like this
darling,
person in the military, like what? We talked about like inviting people into our stories as part of like bringing people along for the ride of the journey, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's like I was in the military back in the 80s. I'm 59 years old. I'm going to be 60 this year. And
selling skincare products afterwards. Yeah.
And the thing is, I got kicked out. Like a month before my 4-year, reenlistment, and I had gotten accepted into the officer program, and at that time it was illegal to be gay in the military. But I think about it now. It wasn't really that I got kicked out for being gay. The ship's captain, Captain Bradshaw.
Isn't everyone gay in the Navy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was on the ship. Yeah.
You're in a submarine for 4 months underwater.
God, But the thing is, but I think the main thing, though, I partied out when I was in the military. That's the thing, and I got into a lot of trouble drinking, and I did do drugs in the military, and I think the main reason wasn't really that I was gay. I got kicked out for
so you were messy?
drinking. Yeah, I was.
Gay and messy are usually co-occurring disorders.
Yeah. And the thing is, so I've been in denial. I had been in denial all these fucking years, as far as like that I didn't have a drinking problem or a drug problem. I never really had a drug problem. I dabbled in drugs, but it was more the drinking for me. And but I always denied it.
Yeah.
You know.
And so that was in the 80s.
That was in the 80s.
You got sober in the 2020s.
Yeah.
What did life look like between then? You know, we say alcoholism is a progressive illness, right?
One of those alcoholics that you get by.
Okay.
You know, but people could tell were easily when I was drinking. Because I try to be happy-go-lucky. I'm one of those positive people, but I'm an evil drunk.
Okay.
I'm a messy drunk.
There's actually, 12 steps might not be for you, but the big book actually says Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right?
And that's me.
They're just such a lovely person. Then you put some alcohol in them.
And it destroyed a lot of relationships I was in. I lost jobs. And it was hard. It was hard as fuck. And finally realizing it, and that's just it. It's just recently, it was I just said, fuck it, I can't do this anymore. I just can't fucking do it anymore. And for a while there, it was what you see now, I was no, I look like shit. I was looking like shit, treating myself like shit, treating people around me like shit. And it's one of those things where it's you feel, I don't feel sorry for myself. I feel bad because of the way I treated the people I loved around me. They didn't deserve that Blair. And so I just, like I said, it's I'm very spiritual. I've always been spiritual. I grew up, Baptist Mormon. But just the fact that I was drinking, I was somebody totally different. Just that I don't like to judge other people. I can easily judge myself. I was an evil bitch. I was.
Well, yeah, I think when we're under the influence, we almost forget about our values.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Whatever those.
Oh, yeah.
If I value being financially responsible, put drugs or alcohol in my body, I'm going to spend all my money. Right? Yeah. If I value I literally told my partner once that if I relapsed to break up with me because I'd cheat on him and break his heart, right? I would do things that were so out of line with my values.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And now that I started going back to church, and I'm dabbling in in the different churches,
well, it's important to be spiritually curious, right? And
yes.
I think so often we're taught to be dogmatic instead of spiritually curious, right?
And that's what's helping my recovery. It's just
have you noticed? So you said you were always spiritual. Did you ever feel like when you were drinking and occasionally using, did you ever feel like there was a block in that spiritual seeking?
Yeah. Yeah. I just thought a lot of times it was I just thought to myself, I don't love me, so God doesn't love me. And so I just drank more. I just drank more, and I did drugs. I did, but it was more of the drinking. The drinking. But this just coming here.
And plus, you have so much more time on your hands to go to all those different churches,
yes,
right?
Yes, and just meeting different people in a different environment.
Some things I'm gonna go off script for a second, right? As a fabulous person that most churches say bad things about, right? How have you navigated that? How have you navigated kind of releasing some of those stereotypes or prejudice? Because in the big book it talks about contempt prior to investigation and take what they can and leave the rest.
I'm Blair. I'm myself. It's when I reached out to the Mormon Church, Elder Olson contacted me. Now I see him every other day. We talk, and of course I told him I'm trans, and that's one of the. It's hard to admit, come out as gay. But it's also really fucking hard to come out as trans, and especially to a Mormon elder. But he was so cool, and that's just it. It's now that I'm not drinking, it's easier to admit who I am, what I am. And it was like, you know, for me coming out as gay was never hard. It never was.
Well,
But
judging by
coming
your
out as
petite
trans.
frame, I imagine everyone probably already knew, right?
And the boobs help.
The
but
boobs help, yeah.
But-
You know, there's something I've found with a lot of the trans people I know. I feel like trans people have a higher capacity for spirituality in some levels because you have to go on a certain journey into your soul to know who you are and then have the courage to come out and be it.
No, yeah.
Do you find that to be true?
Yes, yeah. And it took me a lot of soul searching, to years and years, to finally come out as trans. I didn't start transitioning until 7 years ago. I was 52 years old. And it took me that long to say, you know what, Blair, you're fucking trans. You know, you're a tranny. You know, a lot of people don't like that term, but
you can say it. I
can say it.
Yeah. Awesome. So, is there any, if anyone's struggling with pieces of their identity or who they are, and kind of owning it as a badge of honor instead of a badge of shame, what would you say to them then?
Just look deep inside. Is it what you really are? You know, like I said, it took me all these years to realize who I was. And same thing, I was in denial about being an alcoholic. You know, it took me this long. Sometimes it does take hitting rock bottom to even, you know, come out. You know, as trans, and you know, I got what made me decide to start transitioning to admit to finally come out as trans was I got fucking jumped. I was in drag, and I got jumped by two guys. And I was called a faggot, drag queen, all this shit, right? And I was like, you know what? No, I can't do this. It's like, you know what? Fuck you.
Yeah.
It was like, it's one of those things where I just said, fuck it, I am who the fuck I am.
Yeah.
And that's why I love Pride, you know, Pride Month. It's like, I don't care. And Harvey Milk, that's an awesome movie. And
if you couldn't tell, this was our Pride service today.
But it's just, you gotta just admit, just, you know.
Yeah, when you're talking, it reminds me, like, in prison, right? Like, gay guys have a harder time in prison than the average person, right? And so I was like, do I tell people? What do I do with this, right? And whenever I let other people own my truth, I had no power, right? But whenever I owned my truth, I remember this guy kind of bulled up to me once in prison, and I'm like, honey, I did this. I was never a girl in prison because that's not my truth. But we can talk after about the prison definition of gay and how I didn't fall into it. But I remember there was this guy that bulled up to me once, and I go, honey, I'm 6'3", 230 pounds. You got two options. First of all, you beat up a gay guy, no one cares. Second of all, you get your ass beat up by a gay guy, and you have to catch out, right? Like, you know, there was something about owning it that gave me the power.
Exactly.
And there was something about not owning it that gave everyone else the power over my story. So maybe that's what I should... Gosh, I wish I was writing this message tomorrow. Because when we own our story, right, delivering this message tomorrow, I mean, when we own our story, we take the power back.
Yes.
For who God created us to be, through the challenges that God, higher power, spirit of the universe, whatever you call it, guided us through. And then other people don't have that power.
And that's just so you're going to lose friends, family, you know, loved ones through the process, either, you know, not drinking, you know, or coming out.
Party friends don't like to hang out with sober stuff.
No, I lost a lot of friends.
I mean, they were all,
you know,
trap house tweakers, but
also
still.
just coming out as trans too, I lost family.
Yeah.
You know, they could accept the fact that I was, oh, it's okay, you're a fag, you know. But me being a tranny was totally different.
Yeah.
You know. That's the thing. And
yeah,
it's just, I said, fuck it. You just got to be who you are.
If they can't take you for who you are, they were probably never meant to be part of your life in the first place, right?
And the thing is, so just prayer. And that's the main thing for me. It's just prayer. I pray every day. I wake up, I pray. I go to sleep, I pray. I'll be on the damn train praying.
Wow.
You know,
help me God
thankful,
not pop off on this person. Always, is my favorite train prayer.
But it's like just being grateful and thankful for what you do have. And that's what I've realized, that you, no matter what you're going through, who you've lost or anything, just be grateful, thankful for what you do have.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's and by doing that, it's like I just got accepted into
Grad
the
school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
and,
remember I got waitlisted at Duke, and I'm like, those bitches waitlisted
Yeah.
me for grad school, and then I got a full ride to Perkins.
Yeah.
It's like if I would have sat around ruminating on that
Yeah.
wait list, I would have never celebrated the joy of the full
No,
ride,
yeah,
right?
And that's just it. And the thing is too, it's, you know, a loved one, an ex had told me, it's like you should consider going back to school. But the thing is, I was so involved in drinking and shit. I was like, I was like, no, I'm too old for that shit. You know, or it's like, oh, what the fuck am I gonna do? But just the few months that I've been sober and going to church and just, you know, doing, you know, the self-reflection, I was like, no, I can do it. I can do it. And the next thing I know, I got accepted.
Hell
and
yeah.
so now my biggest thing is like, should I move to back to Texas or
Yeah.
not? My cousin wants me to.
Oh, really?
You know, he's like, I'll get us a house and shit. And I was like, okay.
Okay.
I was like, okay.
Just make sure you stop up on those hormones before you go down there.
No. But you know what, darling? It would be San Antonio. That's a big ass
Yeah.
town. Okay.
Luscious Massacre is my favorite. She's from nearby Bronzeville.
those are,
or Bronzeville.
yeah, it's like
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Claire. Let's hear it for Claire. Thank you. I realized I could kiki with you all night, right? So one of the spiritual practices we talk about every week is the spiritual practice of generosity. Generosity is what helps us reshape our view of the material world and money and all those things around us. So whether you give to free or somewhere else, I encourage everyone to practice generosity. There's also a little cash thing and a little scanner back there for you to use. So now we've come to the heartbreaks portion of our evening. Heartbreaks are those chance for you to share those things that might just be a little too heavy to carry out of here alone. So we'll put on the timer, and please, there's always a pause between heartbreaks, so just take that as an opportunity to pray or think about the person who shared before you. So.
Hi, my name is Ash. A couple of days ago, I was getting dinner with a friend, and as we were leaving the restaurant, a blast from my past kind of walked in, and it triggered me in a way that I didn't think it would have. Being almost 6 months into sobriety, I thought I kind of had a lock on it, but seeing this person out in the wild for the first time kind of shook me a little bit, and I'm doing kind of okay, but it's still like weighing a little bit on my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Prayers for those moments that kind of rock our foundation.
My name's Justin, and I just want to say rest in peace, Matthew Kimmel, who recently joined the 22 Club.
Oh, absolutely. Prayers for your friend who passed away.
So I recently lost a very important relationship in my life, and it has really rocked my world, and I feel heartbroken. And this is the first time in sobriety that things have really been a little shaky for me. I almost feel like this is my sober bottom. Almost relapsed like 3 times this past week, like planning it and but I'm grateful to a very close friend of mine that I met here in this room, and she brought me to a bunch of meetings, and I'm choosing recovery one day at a time.
Awesome. Absolutely. Prayers for navigating through those, and I'm so grateful that you don't have to do it alone, and grateful for people in this room that show up for each other.
I'm Joe, addict. I have been looking at condos, and the one I really liked, the HOA fee is like $700 a month. And so my realtor sort of told me in a nice way, maybe you should save up some more money. We'll wait. But I can't afford it right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for all who shared heartbreaks, and thank you for being here for each other. I think there's also a celebration in some of the heartbreaks that we don't do it alone, right? We have people, and I'm looking around the room and seeing people that'll show up for each other, and that's beautiful. So prayers there. So we've come to the end of our gathering tonight, so thank you all for everyone who came. Again, just a reminder that there's no free next week, but we'll be back on the 11th with a barbecue. So come, enjoy yourself. There's not much room outside, but we can fill that alley if we want, or we can just hang out inside. So if you will, please join me in this closing prayer. God, use me as an instrument of your love and recovery. Let my words encourage rather than condemn. My actions reflect gratitude, and my life point others towards hope. Keep me teachable, honest, and willing to serve. Amen.